right. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. It is 11:30 on the dot. So as we are letting some people roll in here, I'm just going to go ahead and get us started. So I just wanted to thank everybody for joining us today for our Young Alumni series. And this one is the Psychology of Money. My name is Sophie Matthews. I use the she series pronouns, and I am the Student and Recent Graduate Engagement Specialist at the CSU Alumni Association. Before I introduce our speaker today, I do want to go over some quick housekeeping kind of agendas. We are running this event via YouTube. So if you have joined us previously on a Zoom webinar, it's going to operate almost the exact same, so don't worry. Or if you're watching this back later in advance from when we are recording this, you don't actually need to pay attention to this. But for those who are joining us live, we'd love for you to go ahead and ask questions or comment on the material as we go in. And if you have a question or comment, go ahead and use the comments section. So again, if you've joined us on Zoom, this has previously been called the chat section. On YouTube, it's the comment section. This typically shows up underneath your screen or just to the right side of it. So if you have a question or comment, go ahead and drop that anytime throughout our presentation today. And for starters, if you don't mind practicing with me, go ahead and put where you're watching from today in the comments, and if you're an alum, what year you graduated from. So I'll start us off. My name is Sophie. I graduated in 2022, and I'm joining today from Fort Collins, Colorado. So you should be able to see that popping up on your screen there. Okay, awesome. And as we're still rolling through, I'll go ahead and drop a little bit more information. We are joined today by Nancy Patton from Canvas Credit Union, who will be our speaker today. Many of our registered attendees are both CSU Alumni Association members and Canvas Credit Union members. So we'd just like to take a minute to thank you all for your membership. Your support makes a huge difference in our CSU community and makes programs and resources like this possible. All right, and now to kick us off, I am excited to introduce you to Nancy to get us started. Nancy, go ahead.
Thank you, Sophie. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our conversation about the psychology of money. I am an alum of CSU, but from a long time ago, as opposed to Sophie being in 2022. Thanks so much to the Alumni Association for this financial education partnership. We really do want to have you contribute if that's possible for you. I understand sometimes that can be a challenge, so no worries if that's not working for you. But what we're going to do today is take a look at how our emotional side sometimes overrides our rational side when it comes to money decisions. Sometimes we think of money decisions as being about spreadsheets and percentages and this analysis and that analysis, but we really don't work that way. So my name is Nancy Patton. I am with Canvas Credit Union. I'll be leading our conversation. And then the slides were part of your registration process, or if you have questions about getting the slides, just be sure to let us know about that. Here is what we are going to be talking about today. We're going to think about how we come up with value, whether that's related to our money or to some product we're looking at. We're going to talk about some of our feelings, about feelings when we spend or when we save, or how we feel about some money. We're going to talk about mind tricks. We're going to give some very specific examples of the tricks that our minds can play on us as we are spending, saving, planning around our money. And then we're going to make sure you have some tips to take away about actions you can take, things you can do that are based on this, the conversation we're having today. So my first comment to set the stage here is that most of the material that we're going to cover today is actually based on a book. It's Dollars and Cents: How We Misthink Money and How to Spend Smarter. It's written by Dan O'Reilly, and Jeff Kriesler. Dan O'Reilly is a behavioral economist, which means he looks at money. That's the economist part. And he also looks at our behavior, and that's the psychology part. The interesting thing is the other guy's a comedian. So when you read this book, it really means that we get to laugh while we're learning about all the stupid things we do with our money. And they have some great stories and examples. I really enjoyed the book, and so we turned it into a class here. What is money? So take a second and think about that. How would you define money? Some of the things that we commonly hear are that money is necessary. It's frustrating. It's a common currency, an item of exchange. Maybe you've heard money makes the world go round. It's accepted as payment for things, and it's a tool. So the book starts out by asking that question. In general, it is a tool, but there are many reasons that money, as we know it, has taken on its current form. One reason it's helpful is that the money we use today is versatile in general. We can use it for many things. It's also divisible. So 100 could be changed into 5 $20 bills, or you could spend a specific amount using your debit card. It's $99.27. Money is storable. So to compare just how helpful or how acceptable our current form of money is, think about if we used cows as money. This is a silly example, but it should help make the point. To find equal cows would be very challenging. So they aren't versatile and they aren't general. They're certainly not easily divisible. How do you come up with 27 1/100ths of a cow? And of course, storage is an issue. So money is defined as a common good that can be used by anyone for almost anything. And the bottom line about money is really that it represents value. It can take various forms, but we all agree it has value and it can be exchanged for many things. Since we're going to talk about the mistakes we make with money and some of these mental games we play, we should think about how we even learned about money. So take a moment and think about the best financial advice you've ever received. Who gave that to you? Was it a teacher? A family member? Was it something you read and did research on your own? We form our attitudes and values about money from many sources. We learn both good and perhaps misleading information from these sources. So let's think about childhood lessons. Did we see our parents make poor decisions or good decisions that we actually want to adopt in our lives? Did we learn about money and finance while we were in school? Another way we can learn about it is through our cultural or society expectations. So many Americans perceive that being broke and in debt is normal. That's what we do. And in general, a comment is that people won't make smarter choices if they don't think it's going to make a difference. So in some other cultures, saving money might be the norm or the expectation instead of this constant desire for the newest thing and that debt is just the way we operate. Another way that we get these opinions about money is influence. We maybe even could call it manipulation. This could be something like fraud or identity theft. could be a marketing message, could be a high-pressured sales technique. These are all forms of influence. If you are watching today and you have kids, I'm sure you've seen how peer pressure and social media influence our financial thoughts. Another thing that comes into play is our emotional aspect. So, have you ever made a money decision when you were angry or sad or lonely? Maybe you were happy. Drinks for everybody at happy hour because you got a promotion. Or maybe you went online shopping after you had a fight with your kid. Financial decisions often are not rational, but are influenced by how we are feeling. And then finally, personality. Even people from the same family and the same culture approach money differently. I often ask people if they have a sibling that approaches money differently than they do. And the answer overwhelmingly is yes. So you grew up in the same household, you went to the same schools, participated in the same culture, and yet your money approach is wildly different. So some of our money ideas are just part of our personalities. Some people want to avoid thinking about money, or there are people who view money as a source of power or of safety and security. And I bet you have looked at someone else managing their money and wondered, what are they thinking? Don't they see how foolish that is? And meanwhile, they probably think your approach to money is ridiculous. So according to our authors, a common theme among our money mistakes is to incorrectly establish value. Our past has led us to certain conclusions which might not be accurate. As humans, we don't handle money in a way that makes sense, but in a way that feels good. And I'm going to say that again. As humans, we don't handle money in a way that makes sense, but in a way that feels good. So if we were robots, we could make money decisions more rationally. Instead of decisions based on emotion or influence or expectation, we would use something called opportunity cost. The idea is we can only spend money once. So what's my best use of what I have? If I have $5, I could buy a $5 coffee. I could give the $5 away. I could buy a used book, maybe 5 $1 lottery tickets, but I can't do all those things with one set of $5. So we just ran through several options about ways to spend $5. How on earth do you evaluate the best way to spend $1,000? Our spending should be based on opportunity cost in terms of the value we get from what we buy compared to the other ways we could spend our money. But because this is so complicated, our brains come up with shortcuts. And those shortcuts often have us valuing things incorrectly. So there are lots of money mistakes we can make when establishing values. And today we're going to talk about 4 of them. Those 4 are relativity, anchoring, avoiding pain, and expectations. So relativity leads us astray in our values because we compare the wrong thing. It's certainly wise to compare things to establish value, but we often compare poorly. So let's go through some ways relativity could fool you on a typical day. Let's say you're shopping. It's Saturday, you're at the shoe store, you find the pair of shoes you want, it's $75. At the checkout, and I'm so sorry, I didn't update my slides to match my talking points. So we're going to switch and make those shoes be $60, okay? $60 shoes. And the clerk at checkout tells you, oh, you could get those same shoes for $20 less. You could get them for 40 instead of 60 if you just drive 5 minutes down the road to a different store. You could save $20 by driving for 5 minutes? Well, sure, you bet. Thank you, sales clerk. I hope you don't get paid on commission. After you buy your shoes at this sale price, you stop by the Norwegian Furniture Superstore, and that patio set you have wanted is available. It costs $1,060. Now, again, there's an incredibly helpful sales clerk who lets you know that that same item is on sale for $20 less at a store a 5-minute drive away. Cool. But this time, most people say, no, I don't think so. Why? Because $20 off of $60 seems way better than $20 off of $1,060. But either way, you're saving $20 for the same amount of effort you drive for 5 minutes. Our mind, though, says that 33% off is so much better than 2% off. It actually is the same reward for the same effort, but it doesn't feel the same. So relativity fools us about value because in order to make a spending decision, we find a comparison. And if there isn't a logical comparison, then maybe we find an easy comparison, but it may not be a good comparison. So I'll let you ponder that one and apply it to your life. But here's another example of relativity, and that's bundling. So we bought the shoes, we bought the patio furniture, we're ready for a burger and fries. We don't need a drink. We have a water bottle with us. The burger's $6, the fries are $3, but wait, if we get the combo for $10, we get a drink too, and it would cost $2 if we paid separately. So even though I don't need the drink, spending $10 instead of $9 seems to make sense. The bundle confused our comparison skills. Here's another example of relativity. It's a common trick on restaurant menus. It's been proven that most people will order the middle option. So if a menu has an 8-ounce, 10-ounce, and 12-ounce steak, most will pick the 10-ounce, the middle. But if you offer a 10, 12, and 14-ounce steak, now most people pick the 12-ounce, which of course costs more. Now, our decision wasn't based on hunger, nutrition, or even the cost, but simply because we picked the middle option out of the choices we were given. And here's another relativity trick. Once you commit to spending a big amount, adding a little bit doesn't seem like a big deal. So if you have a cart full of $200 worth of groceries, adding the gum or the magazine that's at the checkout is no big deal. Or if you're buying a car, what does it hurt to add $300 floor mats if you are already spending $35,000? Normally you might cringe at the $300, but compared to $35,000, who cares? Those are some examples of the ways relativity can fool us with our money and establishing value. So anchoring is another way we do values the wrong way. It's how we make a financial decision, but we're fooled because this financial decision is based on an irrelevant starting point. An anchor is a price point that gives you an idea of how much something should cost. But often that anchor is irrelevant. So I don't know if anybody shops at TJ Maxx or Ross, one of those kinds of stores. I bought a great pair of pants there. I loved them. It had two price tags on the pants. It showed an MSRP of $68 and a purchase price of $20. The anchor was that $68 price tag, so that I felt great paying $20. But where did 68 come from? Who says the pants have a value of $68? How do I know the true value isn't $21 and I'm only saving $1? To me, the pants were worth that $20. But was it partly because in the back of my head, I compared it to the $68 label? This was anchoring. Here's another example. Next time you're out for a nice dinner, take a look for the most expensive wine on the menu. Often you'll see a single bottle listed at a much higher price, maybe $100, while the rest of the wines are listed at $25 or $50. That one expensive bottle is listed on the menu to make the others seem like a great value. Or maybe it's the entree price. $85 for a fancy seafood entree makes the $50 steak seem reasonable. Our mind somehow says dinners at this lovely restaurant have a value of $85, so this $50 steak surely is worth it. We were set up by an anchor price. As humans, we love bargains. And our brains tell us we are really smart when we get a bargain. We feel special. So if you anchor us with something unrealistic, then we pay what seems to be less and we feel brilliant. So I'm going to share sort of a disaster story of an example of how we really do want those bargains. We want to feel like we're beating the system. JCPenney tried this program several years ago. It was called Fair and Square. And it made the everyday price be the price. So there weren't sales, there wasn't clearance, no buy one, get one free. It was a fair and reasonable price. But as a shopper, you never felt special or smart because you never paid less than that anchor price that was shown. Shoppers hated it. The program or the company almost went bankrupt. The CEO lost his job. And of course, the program went away. Because we want to feel like we beat the system by getting a great price, even if we really don't. And we have to watch for those anchors. The book had amazing stories of examples where a completely irrelevant number was given to the people completing the research, and they made value assignments based on this completely irrelevant number. So anchoring sets in our head somehow a value, but often that value just has no meaning. So before we move to our next value trick, I want to ask you two questions. Just think about this for a second. How much cash is in your wallet right now? It doesn't have to be exact, but approximately how much cash do you have in your wallet right now? And my second question is, do you have a brand that you insist on buying? Could be a brand of cars, could be a brand of clothes or shoes, maybe makeup, or even sandwich cookies. But is there a brand you are loyal to and you will not substitute? So I'll come back to those questions in a second here. We joke about money being painful, but it turns out it actually is. It turns out that when we pay for something, it stimulates the same brain regions that process physical pain. There's a pain formula, which is the pain of paying equals time plus attention. So if we increase the time between consumption and payment, or we decrease the attention required, then we reduce the pain. So here are some examples, and these are either going to increase the time between consumption and payment, or decrease how much attention it takes. So we can avoid the pain of paying by using gift cards or prepaid all-inclusive vacations. maybe buying Amazon Prime to avoid shipping fees. So this prepaying likely means that you are going to enjoy your vacation more because you are not constantly thinking about money while you're enjoying your trip. I don't know about you, but sometimes I spend more if I have a gift card, especially if I didn't buy the gift card or buy the prepaid card, but I was given it as a gift. If we have a Starbucks card, maybe we get a bigger coffee than we normally do. We get a pastry with our coffee because it doesn't feel like real money. We didn't work to get it, especially if that was a gift to you. We treat money that we earn from our salaries very differently from money that we either inherit, win, or are gifted. So using a credit card is one way we avoid pain by paying after we use. Instead of before, we're paying after. We eat out now and we pay later. Plus, when you use the credit card, it's easier than counting out the cash. You may be earning rewards. And it's proven, in case you hadn't heard this before, most people spend more, tip more, and make quicker money decisions when they're using plastic. So if we think about our pain formula, credit cards both increase the time between purchase and consumption, and they reduce the attention it takes. Payment happens later. It's easy to pay once instead of every time we spend, and each individual payment is a small part of the big bill, which takes us back to relativity. So when we think about doing things in an easy way, it can be great for our finances, but it can also really set us up to be disconnected from our spending. So here's some things to think about related to easy spending. If your credit card number is stored on a purchase site, you just click and you're done. Did you need what you just bought? Did you have to think about it? No. Click and you're done. Speed in spending is often the opposite of wisdom in spending. And here's why I asked you how much cash you have. It's definitely been a trend to have little or no cash, but cash is very real. If you have been struggling with spending too much or feeling out of control with spending, then using cash can be a strategy to increase your awareness and control. When you spend cash in the moment, you have to open your wallet. You see how much is there. You pull out the right amount. You receive change back. Think about how many times you see the money and touch the money. We have to think. It's a very real process. So using cash can be one way to make the attention more deliberate in our spending. Paying when we consume something makes us very aware of the pain of paying, and it diminishes the pleasure of consuming. So is that bad? Well, it depends on your goals. If you're going on vacation to relax and unwind, paying in the moment detracts from your mental and emotional goal. But if you're having trouble with your spending and knowing what's going on and feeling out of control, then making it harder might be helpful. So one final thought is that our desire to avoid pain and make things easy is great when we apply it to saving our money. But it can be bad for us when we apply it to spending. Automatic deductions are a painless way to build savings and investments. Automatic payments can set us up to be disconnected from our spending. They have other advantages, so you have to approach it from a variety of perspectives. All right, another classic example of a money mistake is connecting our expectations to the value of something. Have any of you ever bought a beer at a sporting event? a burger on the ski slope, a water bottle at the concert. The setting is one way where we skew the actual value of a purchase. We all go to a concert or a sporting event expecting to spend a small fortune to eat a meal or have a drink. We're willing to pay more because it's part of the overall experience. But we know that you can buy an entire six-pack of beer for the cost of just one at the ballpark. And this isn't necessarily wrong. We're willing to spend more at the restaurant on the ski hill because it's such a hassle to get to the base, schlep to the car for the cooler, find a table, feed the family, get the cooler back to the car, and then get back on the hill. We know the burger isn't worth $25, but we can justify it because of the experience involved. Our expectations of an item we're buying can completely color our perception of it. And this is why brand loyalty exists. Instead of generic acetaminophen containing exactly the same ingredients, people will almost always fork over the extra few dollars for the same pills with a Tylenol label on them. How many times have you heard about blind taste tests where the brand name product is regarded poorly compared to the store brand? But most of us are willing to pay more for the store brand because we expect it to perform better. So when I asked you about brands, did you have a brand you were loyal to? Was it Harley Davidson, Charmin, Tylenol, Oreo? It's just something to consider if we're thinking about our money, and do we need to be loyal to all the brands which cost us more? Something to think about. Another aspect of this expectations thing is, for some reason, the word free just seems to scramble our brains. When we're offered a free item or service, we forget what other costs there might be to that item or service because we're so focused on the fact that we're not paying money. What's really interesting is that we are willing to pay more in order to get something free. So think about that cute little bonus bottle of shampoo attached to the big bottle, and somehow it makes us ignore the price because there's that cute little bonus for free. These are just some of the ways that our brains fool us about spending and value. So we've talked about some of the tricks that are going out there. And let's take a minute and talk about some ways you can either outsmart the system or maybe outsmart yourself. When we use the pain of paying concept to our advantage, one of the ways we can do that is to make saving easy. All of these ideas that you see require almost no effort, and they'll reward you with having money in your savings painlessly. This is, of course, a huge advantage to your financial life. So pay yourself first is the concept that on payday, you have money immediately moved to your savings account. Before you start spending, before you start paying bills, you pay yourself first by putting money in a savings account. It really helps if you can automate that. If you're using your employer retirement funds and that's automatically coming out. If you have set up some kind of automatic transfer, in my case, money goes into my checking account on payday, but that same day I've automatically set up a transfer over to my savings account. Automating can be really helpful whenever we're talking about saving. It's proven that if you name the account, if you have a savings account and you're saving for a Tesla or you're saving for Tahiti, if you name the account, chances are you won't dip into it for some other purchase. Again, a silly little game our brains play. For those of you who are spending cash, there's the good old coin jar where you empty the extra change into it and let it build up and see what fun thing you can do with it. There is a virtual version of this, which is at Canvas, we call it Level Up, but there are other places that have this concept. Little bit of money every day is moved into your savings account because it's rounding up what you spent using your debit card. painless way to build up some savings and with the normal spending you're doing. We always encourage people to look for high interest savings accounts. Right now, savings rates are very good. This is March of 2024, and savings rates right now are excellent. If you put money in a savings account 2 years ago, please know that you're probably not earning as much as you could be. Do a little research and find a good place to put those savings. And then please take advantage of any kind of employer benefit, especially related to retirement. Almost always those are just automatic and can really help you out setting up for your future. Those were ideas about saving, but let's talk about spending as well, and how to avoid getting tricked on our values there. Knowing that we get tricked, that's one thing, but knowing your weak spot can really help you target what needs to be fixed. Many of these suggested actions involve slowing down. You want to engage your brain and make the situation very real. So if you're having a hard time acting your wage, to help you live within your means, you can set up balance alerts. Those are warnings on your accounts. You can set them up in home banking. You can set them up with your credit card company, but it'll remind you that there's a low balance. It'll remind you of some fraud situations, like somebody tried to change your address. It'll remind you that a large purchase was just made. So those alerts can be really helpful in keeping things real in our day-to-day financial life. If you are hanging out with people who are spending more freely than you are able to do, here's a couple tips so that you aren't sucked into spending more than you can afford. You can take cash, or you could take a prepaid card if you're going out, and that will limit what's available to you to spend. If you don't have a vision of your own money in the future, think about this little example we're going to give about opportunity cost. We're going to talk about the opportunity cost of $5 a day. Saving $5 a day for 1 year is $1,825, and it adds up to more than $9,000 over 5 years. So is there something you would like to do with $9,000 in 5 years instead of making the choice to have a daily coffee or that breakfast burrito or whatever your thing is? So part also of future money visions are planning for bigger purchases like a car. You want to be sure with those that you're taking time to compare prices, to have a plan for saving up so that you're not having to borrow more money than you really need to. So having a savings plan, doing comparison shopping, these are all great ways for those big ticket items. You can also slow down your spending by setting a limit. So if you have anyone else in your life that can be sort of an accountability partner for you, figure out what dollar figure it is that you have to check with them before you spend it. Is it $100? Is it $50? Is it $500? Before you spend anything that expensive, you have to check with your partner. Another trick for slowing down is to put the item into your online shopping cart, but then not actually make the purchase for 24 hours. It will slow you down enough to think, do I really need this? It is amazing. This simple 24-hour trick has, we just hear it over and over and over again from people. Yep, I started doing that, and it really made me think, and I don't spend nearly as much on things I don't need. So that one's an easy one for people to implement. Another thing that'll slow you down is that if, as we said before, don't have your card number, your credit card number, your debit card number stored on a purchase website. If you have to get out the card and enter it every time you make a purchase, it's going to slow you down and you'll be thinking. It's also, of course, much safer to not have those numbers stored on a website. Here's another thing. This would apply both for online purchases and in-person purchases. Wrapping your credit card in a piece of paper that shows the balance. So you wouldn't be able to use the card without seeing how much you already owe. These are all different tricks for making you stop and think a little bit before you spend. Knowing your weakness and which of these tricks to apply can really help you slow down your spending. That's our conversation for today about the psychology of money. If you enjoyed the information that was shared today, remember it's primarily from the book Dollars and Cents. There are several libraries that have this book available, and that author, Dana Rayleigh, has written several other books, which also are well done. There is a very similar research-based book called Happy Money. And again, it's a lighthearted read with some great examples. So I do also strongly recommend Happy Money. There was a PBS documentary not too long ago called Thinking Money, and it also explores some of these mental, emotional aspects of money. And in particular, some of the examples in that program are about the future thought, about envisioning the future and how that affects our spending. So those are all things I would recommend. Our website at Canvas is on the screen as well. And Sophie, I guess I'll turn it back over to you to make sure we wrap up.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much, Nancy. If we had a clapping reaction, I'm sure that we would be able to do that for you. But just imagine it in your head that we're all clapping for you. And thank you, everyone, for joining us today over your lunch break or wherever your day finds you. If you have any questions, never hesitate to reach out to myself, the Alumni Association, Nancy, Canvas Credit Union. We're all here and excited to get to know you and connect with you. I have dropped the link to the slides in the comments, so you can also see it on the screen here, but this is a PDF of all the slides, just in case you didn't get that in an email. You have it right here for you. We're going to hang out for a couple more minutes and see if anyone has any questions, but in the meantime, have a wonderful day and go Rams.
Go Rams. Ooh, it's basketball.
That's right. All right. Thank you, everyone.